Hey everyone, welcome to the Boyos. We are back. Yes, there was three, now there's, well, as many as we want. We are back, guys. Just me and Noah today, but we're going to explain to you the process of what it is. There'll be some slight changes to the podcast. It's not just going to be football. We're going to have guest speakers on. We're going to have many different people coming on to speak to us, give their opinions on different matters. That is what is going on. No, it's good to be back, right?
Great to be back. Yeah, a lot of anticipation before our return. A lot of friends, family members, and interested folk. Really desperate for the show to get back on the road, and yeah, it's really good to finally deliver and give it to them. Yeah,
Exactly right. First of all, the season started. We are a bit late. We do apologise, but it's kicked off pretty much mainly so far in the transfer window. We have got the craziness of Chelsea doing what Chelsea do best, and that is just chuck money at anything that moves. If it's got a pulse, they're chucking at it. What do you make of the situation? And explain it to us the best you can, or try and make something out of it. I don't know what's going on personally.
honestly, in all my time watching football, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. But in the way that Chelsea are moving and how they're operating, um, they so the Ukraine war situation happened, obviously.
Mhm.
And then it was found, I believe, that the Chelsea owner at the time, Roman Abramovich, had links and ties to Vladimir Putin,
Mhm.
who was one of the main, I guess, architects of the aggression against Ukraine. The UK government, trying to kind of do their bit for the Ukrainian cause, ended up kind of using these links and ties against Abramovich to force him to sell his assets, which included his UK-based assets, I should say, including Chelsea Football Club, obviously, meaning that the handover of ownership now has been passed on to these new American owners, Todd Bowley and the rest of the gang, Clear Lake and all of that. Um, and obviously, it seems quite clear and evident that their transfer strategy and the way that they are conducting the running and the management of Chelsea seems in stark contrast to the orderly way and the kind of cutthroat way that Abramovich used to have it
Mhm.
run very efficiently. Even rival fans, I think, will have to admit, they were pretty cutthroat when it comes to their management. And if you didn't perform, if you didn't get results, then yeah, you were off the door, and the next best was brought in. Not just the next, but the next best. And likewise, when it came to their transfers, their purchases, their acquisitions, and their updating or upgrading their squad, they would only ever really go for the cream of the crop and the best of the best.
Mhm.
They would build around a base core. Normally, let's say a Petr Cech in goal, a John Terry in defence, Frank Lampard in midfield, Didier Drogba right down that spine there, and then just add kind of expensively assembled parts to it. And then the basis of that team would stay, and they would often move the other revolving parts around it, but not really in a kind of slapdash way, in the way that this current model of Chelsea are doing it, where they're buying this talent, that talent, another one. Sometimes in threes, fours, fives, they're chucking them in. Things are not working. They've been in them. They get new ones in. It's very higgledy piggledy, and yeah, a lot of people including myself, can't make sense of it.
Yeah, I just wanted so I on my other screen, but here I got what they spent since 20 all the way from 2019 all the way up. So and the Abramovich they spent. Don't get me wrong, they spent money, but nowhere near they have now. Um,
Wisely.
yeah, it was good money. You know what I mean in terms of I think the last big mistake he may have made was bringing in Romelu Lukaku. Personally, first time it didn't really work, but that's just an opinion. All the others, so if we have a look now from 2022, they spent to 2022 2023 630 million and sold 67 million pounds worth of euros worth of players. That
Mhm.
include Endo Fernandez 121 million euros. You got Fofana 80 million euros. I don't think I've actually seen him play a game personally. Have you? I may have missed it, but like
He suffered two cruciate ligament injuries. in his knee back to back. So he's only really played for them for a very small spell. And it's funny because the summer that they were pursuing him, they were going all above and beyond to try and get him. And then when they eventually, obviously, they haven't even seen the best of that investment that they've made on him. So yeah, unfortunate for that one. Really bad luck.
The ones that Arsenal fans tried to get the most and killed them the most. Mudryk, what was that, 70 million? You got Cucurella, 65 million. Sterling, 58 million. Kambuala, 41 million. All these players.
That's your guy, isn't it? The last person you mentioned.
Calibala? From Napoli.
Oh, Kalidou Koulibaly.
Koulibaly, yeah, I'm not very good. I can't read English, let alone anything else.
No.
So we got the likes of Gusto. To be honest, I think Gusto was actually a good signing for him.
I like him as well.
And he was probably 30 million euros. But I think that it's the amount of players they've got in such a small period of time. They haven't had a settled period with the same starting 11, as you could say, for multiple seasons. And I think that's the issue for me. That's in 22-23. The outgoings, I think they sold better players out than they did anything else. Billy Gilmour, I think I rate him as a midfielder quite a lot. He's not a first, he's not a top 8 team player, get that. But he's a great talent. Jorginho, doing bits at Arsenal. Okay, he's not the best thing in the world, but he does a job.
He did a fine job. He plugged a very, very large gap that Arsenal needed filling at the time, especially if you, given when you consider his age, and he was maybe 31, maybe 30, 31 or 32 years old, probably around 30, 31 he was. And often kind of seen as a bit of a lightweight midfielder for Premier League football. But he's just slotted Arsenal seamlessly, and he's done an absolutely fantastic job in covering that crucial DM central defensive midfield position. A lot of clubs, I think, around Europe, are really having an issue with kind of nailing down that position right there. That's the anchor that everything else around the rest of the team kind of pivots off of. So if you secure that position correctly, I think that you've got more chance of getting a better functioning team around it.
It's a good balance you want, and that's what he gives you, right?
It's the perfect balance. Yeah, if you get that central hub fixed, all the other components around it should flow off of it. So yeah, an excellent purchase from Arsenal, I'd say. One that even shocked me pretty much because I didn't rate him at all. But yeah, selling a guy like that to one of your rivals and then watching them go on and compete and contest for the league in 2 back-to-back seasons now, that must be a real kick in the teeth for them. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, 100%, I agree. And then you had the Emerson, who went to West Ham, and obviously Timo Werner, which we all can joke and laugh about. But let's be honest now, is he any worse than any of the other Chelsea wingers at the moment? Probably not. So when you laugh about it, when they sold him for 20 million euros to Leipzig at the time, obviously he's now at Spurs. How much did they pay for him, do you know? I don't know off the top of my head. About 10 million, 12 million, something like that.
Tottenham, I think, paid around 20 for him, but it was a bust, wasn't it? They brought him in, didn't really fit, tried to play him in a couple of different wider positions. The central striking position didn't really work. The same with the likes of Kai Havertz as well. Didn't really know where and how to fit him. Sold him to a rival, and they're all getting the better out of them.
Yeah, and to be honest, Kai Havertz is one of those ones I wasn't a big fan of. You wasn't even, you cannot lie. But he has found his spot in that team now, and sometimes you got to trust the process, right, as they say. If you have a look then, so we're going on to 23-24 now, season. They spent 464 million, okay, which is mental, but it's surprising. They got outgoings of 277 million.
Yeah, so one thing about Chelsea that a lot of kind of fans and pundits don't really take into consideration is how well they do their business when it comes to getting them out the back door. They've recouped a lot of good money off the back of selling a lot of their academy products. I think Conor Gallagher, they went to Atletico Madrid for about 35 million. They got a pretty hefty, I think, 20 million fee for Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And none off the top of my head, but I can in the back of my mind think of countless others that they've gotten good dollar for. So
Well,
yeah,
you could put it into
Right.
Kai Havertz, 75 million. Mason Mount, 64.2 million. Kovacic, 30 million. You know what I mean? All these Loftus Cheek went 18.5 million, but with the 25% really sell on clause. Do you mean it's them little things, the 25% sell on clauses? All these add
Uh,
ons really add up for them, and they're really good at that, especially when they have a look at their loan deals. For instance, now this season so far, they've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 players out on loan, all bringing in loan fee of £145 million worth. Like,
mhm.
that's just in loan players.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you can
yeah.
see, I think you start to see where they're able to pull the money from. It's more of a business, isn't it? Let's be honest now.
To them, this is an investment project. This is not really about the success of Chelsea Football Club as a team. This is more of a buying in and flipping what they bought in for a buck, for a profit.
Mm-hmm.
And when they get rid of those academy talents as well that they bring through, the likes of a Mason Mount as well, 65 odd million quid. Obviously, Conor Gallagher, as I said.
Mm.
Uh,
42
we
million.
Yeah, yeah, euros that is.
Yeah.
We forget about Tammy Abraham as well, went to Roma.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Lewis Hall went to Newcastle, I think, for around 20 million. He barely played for Chelsea, and somehow they recouped a 20 million transfer fee for him. Um, I know that there are countless others. Mark Gahey as well. I think he's being looked at by Newcastle United now for
Mm-hmm.
50 odd. I'm sure they're due part of whatever transfer fee that he commands when, if and when Newcastle purchase him. And yeah, it's just it's good business acumen being shown by the Chelsea board and hierarchy. So it's got to go both ways, you know. For Scattergun as the approach to incoming transfers has
Yeah.
been, have to apply that same kind of energy when. Yeah, I think it's just good to recognise that as scattergun and wild as their incoming transfer policy has been, you have to I think apply the same energy for the praise as far as the departures and the offloading of some of their talent that they have and the recouping of some of the transfer fees that they get for their talent,
Mm-hmm.
especially the academy based ones where they're getting proper bang for their buck. Yeah, I think that needs to be acknowledged as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I kind of agree. But also, what I can see here, so this website's actually pretty good. It's called transfermarket.co.uk and basically tells you everything. They've done
I
2
know.
deals already for next year on 2 youngsters, it looks like. Don't know who they are, I haven't got a clue. Looks like from the Brazilian league. But they've got
Yeah.
52 million spent already for next year on 2 youth prodigies. And I think that's what they're doing, as you said. They're buying a lot into their youth system. So, for instance, this year, they've bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different under 21s and 18 players and putting them straight
Yeah.
into your youth, which I don't know if people know, but that doesn't count towards financial fair play. People always forget
Yeah.
that. They can spend big, put them straight into their youth. As long as they play a season in the youth, it doesn't count towards their financial fair play, which people forget about. And I think
Mhm.
they manipulate the rules quite well in terms of that. One question, because I know you're a winger yourself. You know, you do your bits. You know what I mean. Neto, Felix, all both been bought. You got Palmer. You got all their variety of other the wingers.
Mhm.
Why? Why have they bought them 2 players in when they got the likes of Sterling, who's now been ripped off the number 7, has been given to Neto, and kicked out the team.
Madness.
Multiple serial, you could say he's a serial winner technically. I can't. I don't think many people will argue with that. Why? Why
Yeah.
would you bring in Felix when you just brought Neto in? Is this just a game for him?
So I think what they've done, Chelsea, is they've identified the demographic of incoming players that they would like to bring in as far as their future project, as far regarding actual success on the pitch. Pedro Neto, excuse me, highly sought after winger. Premier League proven, very, very impressive talent, courted by a lot of Premier League clubs. Unfortunately, he's got an injury record that is right up there with the worst of them. But he's at a good age. He's come in for a very decent fee. He's a very effective footballer, one that I think many in the top four in the Premier League would love to have. And it's a smart acquisition.
Hmm.
I know that they've got a whole host of attacking players, and you're wondering, well, where the hell does this guy get game time when there are, 6, 7, maybe 8 other players
Exactly.
in that second order as well. But you never know. This manager that they brought in now, Enzo Maresca, he he might be in a position where he has identified him. He has identified that he is a starting type player, and he will likely get more minutes now than the likes of a Raheem Sterling, who was brought in last season, is going to get. Hence why he's being frozen out now. It's kind of a one in, one out type situation. I think Cole Palmer's a fixture on the other flank. So Pedro Neto, I think, is a good fit for the left. I think the Mihailo Mudryk experiment on the left wing is a bust now, even after just one single season. I think for the outlay that they spent on him, 80 million, I think that they're just calling it quits on that one, and they're just going to resign him to a bench role, maybe as an impact sub. The Joao Felix one, I think, although he is an extremely talented player as well, and he plugs or he fills a gap in that kind of centre forward attacking midfielder type area as well, slash striker. Um, he was part of the deal that helped offload Gallagher to Atletico Madrid,
Hmm.
kind of sweetener almost to get him back coming the other way. And with the Gallagher transfer fee being pure profit, 35 odd million, yeah, again, it just ties back into their business model and their transfer
Yeah.
policy for Raheem Sterling as well, with him practically being transfer listed and frozen out and having his number taken off him. I don't know if there's a particular element of him being a homegrown player, being a part of the factor of him being moved on. I think he's on significant wages as well. So offloading him off of the books, I think, would also help them to balance their books on
Hmm.
the spreadsheet come the end of the financial year and what have you. So yeah, a combination of on-field transfer decisions coupled with business decisions that will help balance the books. I think that's where I see the idea for the back of these two transfers and two departures coming. Um, Ben Chilwell as well being another one that's kind of been frozen out and left to rot in the reserves, and
Hmm.
Nathaniel Chalobah, Trevor, his brother, another homegrown talent who, if they can offload off their books and get some coin in for him, then yeah, that'll be more academy-based profit that'll be outgoing, and obviously again another factor to balance the books again. So I see what they're doing. It is
Yeah.
it is a bit ruthless the way that they've done it, especially with Sterling and Chalobah and Gallagher actually. But in the corporate world, there's no room for sentiment.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the ruthlessness, and I guess that's you expect that from Chelsea anyway. A bit of ruthlessness. You expect that from even when Abramovich was there. Mainly, it was managers, not players, then, but they're still bringing that nature through. For me, one very very quick point: do you think
Yeah.
Raheem Sterling can fit in any top 8 Premier League team now? I don't think he will.
As far as Sterling's talent, I don't think that's up for debate or question. He's been ever dependable for England. I don't think you hang around Manchester City squad, especially under the management of Pep Guardiola, unless you've got something about you. He was a vital contributor of some serious numbers from that wing position that he occupied, often sometimes playing down the middle as well. 20 plus goals and assists, if not significantly more, in back to back seasons. That doesn't come from a player that doesn't have anything to him. Unfortunately, when you take a guy out of a system sometimes and you put him into a whole new team, then yeah, I guess it can expose his flaws that the previous system was hiding. So it's up to the club, the coach, the management really to get the best out of the talent that they have. And if they deem them surplus to requirements, then yeah, you'll find yourself left in the reserves and discarded, being pushed out the back door. So can a top team take Sterling and squeeze out the remainder of whatever talent and use that he's got left? Absolutely. But is Sterling hungry enough for that kind of challenge, given the amount of money that he was on, now living back in London?
Yeah.
Being on 300 plus K a week living in London, I mean, that's silk pajama settings, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do I have to go and earn another Premier League title off the back of the 5 that I already won with City? Not really. Not really. I could probably retire today. Depends on the player and it depends on the club in question.
Exactly. Yeah. Is no question his talent, but for me, I don't think he'll fit into the top 8. I think it's probably a good time for him to move abroad now and get a bit of a taste of maybe the Italian league, Spanish league. You know what I mean? Bit of a slower game, protect his body a
Wages,
little bit more.
wages, however, will be an enormous obstacle.
Yes.
Once you hit a particular peak in wages, 250, 300 or plus, it's very difficult to come back down and have your wages drop with it.
Mm.
These players often are advised by their agents that they're better off sitting out their contract, seeing it through, or just being paid off and cancelling the rest of the contract, getting their compensation in, and perhaps joining another club as a free agent, possibly like the Aubameyang thing, where we cancelled his contract, paid him 11 million just to buy out the rest of his contract, and then he joined Barcelona on free, and the rest was history.
Talking about Barcelona going on freeze, you've done a perfect one, Beer. I am absolutely gutted with this. Absolutely gutted because Gundogan coming in back to the holy club where he won everything at for absolutely nothing. They've cancelled his contract. I don't know what's going on with Man City and Barca, but there's something not right going on here. There's something
In
dodgy
fact,
going on to these clubs. It's got to be right.
is that confirmed?
It's confirmed. It's Fabrizio Romano confirmed. Yeah, for me, that's confirmed. You know what I mean? He's cancelled his contract, going on a free, back to Man City. He's confirmed it. I'm confirming it. I don't trust the media. They take too long for my liking. But what do you reckon then? He was a stonewall starter, probably the controller of that midfield during Pep's multiple winning streaks he's had. Is that the missing piece, and what does this mean for Kovacic?
Oh, good question. So Gundogan in his time in the Premier League came in pretty much under the radar. He wasn't really that kind of a superstar name that you'd normally associate with a Manchester City transfer, like an Aguero, David Silva. But yeah, over the years since he joined and all the way up till he left, he ended up, I think, being one of the top 3 performers. Again, under the radar, really kind of unheralded, unsung hero. And you see the difference when he left and they brought Kovacic in. City, they just didn't tick the same. A very dynamic midfielder, very adept at covering ground, very adept at box to box, very gifted kind of passer, finisher, penalty taker, link player, a central midfielder with absolutely everything. And when he was on his way out the door at City and Arsenal was sniffing, I was rubbing my hands, I'm not going to lie. A player like that's just magnificent. He decided he had enough of the Premier League, 5+ years, give or take. And he went obviously to a new venture in Barcelona, Spain, one of the best clubs in the world. Unfortunately, he found himself joining a Barcelona team where the club were in a serious kind of state of transition where their finances were just an absolute mess due to the mismanagement of the chief executives and the directors that they had at the time, to a point where they couldn't register players that they were signing because of the poor balancing of their books and squad player registration and what have you. And I just think that he's got to a point where, as nice as the city of Barcelona is to live, I'm sure it's an amazing place to live, like Manchester, as wonderful and exotic as a club Barcelona are, that he has realized what he left with Manchester City in terms of order, in terms of structure, in terms of management, in terms of just the way a proper big football club is supposed to be run, and he's had enough of it. I think it leaves you unsettled. Imagine if you're kind of, I don't know, working a job or living in a home, and there are things going on behind the scenes where you don't know if your bills are being paid, you don't know if your wages are going to get paid, you don't know if new signings that are being signed are going to be teammates of yours, or if they're going to be frozen out. Yeah, I just think he had enough, and he's like, "Listen, man, I appreciate everything, but
I'm
I
out.
need order, I need structure in my life. I'd like to just politely request that I leave because this is not for me. It's very unsettling to be here. It shocked me. It has
It
because
shocked me as well.
normally when you join a club like Arsenal, you stay until they want you gone. You don't kind of knock the door begging to leave. But yeah, unfortunately, that's the state of Barcelona at the moment. It's sad to see because I was a club when I was growing up and throughout my early to mid 20s and beyond were just like the creme de la creme, the top. They
Hmm.
played the best football, best stadium, they have the best players. Um, and yeah, just sad to see all around. If Manchester City do go on and get him back again, I think it'd be a nice swan song for him. The only thing that isn't really on his side, however, is age. I know he performed amazingly at the Euros, even though Germany kind of exited a little quickly, a little early for maybe most people's liking for a host nation, but he performed exceptionally given his age. He's still got that same dynamism, same passing range, the same intelligence. Yeah, he'll only better Manchester City's team. It'll be interesting to see how they re-implement him to an already kind of functional team that's maybe moved on away from him now.
And
It
also,
could
I think
be
they've changed their play style since the last time he's played a little bit in the way they play as well, especially with Haaland now having a proper striker. They slightly changed, not massively, but they have slightly changed.
sure, but I think this is a guy who knows every inch of that club inside out, and he'll fit in seamlessly again. This is if he even ends up going back there. I'll have to see the reports myself to know if they've been confirmed or if it's still kind of part of the rumor mill. But
Hmm.
yeah, it'll be a seamless transition. It'll just be like anybody coming back home to where they lived for many years. You know the surroundings, you know the environment. Uh, yeah, just a natural homecoming, really. I think.
Slotting like glove. Kovacic.
Kovacic. Think he took time to adapt in becoming the replacement for Gundogan. A lot of people kind of underwhelmed um, seeing him as the like for like replacement
Mm.
and feeling as if it wasn't really adequate enough as far as quality goes. But I think as time has gone on, he's shown himself to be a very capable footballer. He
Yeah.
showed it at Stamford Bridge week, running through a combined 200 million midfield um, especially of the club that sold him, ran right through them and tucked away a beautiful finish. Yeah, I think Pep will balance the squad. He'll manage it accordingly, and he'll do what he always does, which is squeeze the best out of the available personnel that he has and use them accordingly to when he needs them, and
Yeah.
occasionally freeze them out accordingly to when he needs the other guys. It'll be fine. When you're winning, there's no real room for complaints, and I think
Yeah, and
that's
he's done that with Cancelo, and they had a little argument. Still, believe it or not, a Man City player.
mm,
He's back in the club
mm,
now as well. He hasn't even got a club to go to, Cancelo. But yeah, you've just proven it. But there, if he doesn't want you at the club, he's more no. Don't care how big you are, he'll kick you out of that club. Um, Next, I want you to have a little think of the top six at the end of the season. What is it going to be? Because I'm going to tell you mine. I'm going to tell you mine. Okay. So mine are
first.
City are going to win it. Personally, I can't see no one. I know you got to go another year of not winning it, but they're juggernauts. Until Pep goes, I don't think you're going to win it. Second, Arsenal. Third, Liverpool. And I think it'll be very close between Arsenal and Liverpool this year. I really do. Um, Fourth, this is probably me being a United fan, but United, I do think that we'll get it. I think we're going to get the right signings in. I think we got some really good business this year, but that's for another story. Spurs, then Newcastle, and I know the Newcastle fans are going to kill me, but that's what I think. I just don't rate Eddie Howe personally, and I just think they can do a lot better than him. And yeah, that's my top six. I don't think Arsenal have got enough. I don't think that they've probably done enough in the transfer window to match Man City, let alone go above them. Um, I think the same for Liverpool, but I think Liverpool are playing a different style of football now, where it may suit the old aging players a little bit more. It's not so much or rock and roll football. It's more like a Pep style of football. United, I think they've done good business. Again, it's just down to the manager. It depends what Eddie's got on and what they can do. Spurs are Spurs. There's no way of explaining that. Spurs are Spurs, and Newcastle. I just don't rate Eddie Howe. You know what? My one player that I really think that will surprise us and I think will flourish this year is Alexander Isaac up front, or Isaac, sorry. I think he'll score. He'll be up there in the top scorers this season.
Is he at the point where he's still surprising us, or do we know that he's a certified player?
I think we know now. He's not surprising us no more, but I think he's at the point where he will consistently, if he's played and fit, I think he will consistently bang in the goals for him. Where last season he may not have been as consistent.
Okay.
That's me personally. That's my little insight to that. Relegation then. Reese is going to kill me. Everton. I think there's going to be more point deductions for them. Personally. I've said this again last season, and they will go down this season, I'm hoping. Wolves. I think they've sold a lot of their good players. I think they've sold a lot. Haven't really bought in. And Ipswich, I think, are going to go down. That's my three. I don't know. I hope not. And to be fair, normally the ones I say don't go down anyway, so we'll see. But yeah, let me know. What's your top six, bottom three?
That's an interesting take. I have Amdanad with this. I think the way that Arsenal finished the back end of last season, especially that run from January all the way up to the end, where they just got to a point where they were blitzing teams, both home and away, in back-to-back fixtures with fours, fives, sixes, keeping clean sheets in the process as well, with a lot of comfort and a lot of ease, by the way. I think that bedrock in defense is possibly enough to see them through to actually winning it this time around, you know. There will be a leftover frustration and equally determination to get it over the line this time. The first round that they properly challenged, it was a 5 or 6 point gap or deficit towards the end. They then closed it last season to a 2 point gap. It has to be the season where they eventually close that. You know, they've shown that they can shut teams out, and they've shown that they can bang goals in. The only minus they have against their name is having a certified sharpshooter up front. You know, a ruthless killer who is born and bred, lives, eats, sleeps, breathes, dies, repeats, scoring goals, and absolutely nothing else. Gabriel Jesus, for all the talent that he has, right up there as far as skill, technique, and everything in between goes. I think he lacks that killer instinct element. And I think that possibly could be Arsenal's undoing as far as getting it over the line. Kai Havertz, the other forward option up front, a very mixed opinion of him generally. However, like Arsenal, his upturn in form coincided with theirs from January onwards, and he proved that he's a very, very capable goal scorer, a very capable assister, finisher, provider. He provides an real threat. He gets involved in link play. He's got that 6'4" frame to unsettle defenders. He's got the deft touch, really good intelligence, and what have you. But I think maybe with a lot of the finesse that he has, going for him, I think what he lacks again is that ruthless edge, and that power, and that serious pace that the likes of an Erling Haaland has for Manchester City. So it depends on how they utilize their forwards. If they can get in another striker, and a serious striker, you know, maybe a Victor Gyökeres, a Victor Osimhen, somebody who fits all of the descriptions that I made about a top target man, then that could maybe take them over the edge and get them over the line. City, they To me, it feels as though if they finish first or second, really depends on how much leftover hunger they have to secure a fifth. There'll be four titles on the trot right now, unprecedented, never been done before. They eclipsed United's kind of three-peat, as they call it. How much hunger and motivation is there to get the fifth? They're certainly capable. They can certainly do it. They've got a system that is just immaculate. And you take one part out of it, you put another part into it, and it just flows seamlessly. It looked like they beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge with while playing in second gear the other day. Turning it on and off whenever they wanted. Yeah, serious contenders again, but their hunger depends. Their hunger will determine what happens as far as
Mm.
Premier League winners and runners up. Following that, from third all the way down to sixth, I think it's a tricky one, really tricky one to assess. We've got Liverpool, who should be really the shoe-ins, given that they took Arsenal and City to the wire last season, making it a three-way title race. The only big factor here is one, their lack of incoming signings at Liverpool, really adding to the squad.
Yeah.
Another thing as well is an unknown, unproven manager, Arnie Slot, who is obviously untested at this level. And not many people outside of the Netherlands know what he's about. I know that having watched them play against Arsenal in pre-season and against United in pre-season as well, that I saw a very, very capable team, a very dangerous team. Mohamed Salah still putting up numbers, still a threat, still effective. Luis Diaz, he's adapting to the Premier League more and more. He's always going to be a live wire and a threat. The Darwin Núñez element, I think, is what often lets them down. But with Diogo Jota being the kind of foil and either the backup, the replacement, or the starting attacker, if they can get a fit Diogo Jota um, on a consistent run for them,
Mm-hmm.
I think he will be. He can also be a difference maker as far as where Liverpool end up finishing. If he's fit for the rest of the season, then there's a possibility that they could win the league. He's one of the most impressive players, I think, in the league that doesn't really get called out. Left foot finisher, right foot finisher, long range, short distance, headers. Yeah, I've said it before on the podcast previously, and I'll say it again. Often we Arsenal have been victims to him and his little sneaky ways of sneaking the goal. But then, yeah, there's a couple of questions in the midfield areas as well. For Liverpool, you just sold Fabio Carvalho, which is a real shock to me because I thought him and Harvey Elliott could have been a real kind of platform for them to build off. They played Arsenal in pre-season, and those two absolutely smoked the Gunners. Yeah, they were toying with them at times. I don't know how if you get Arsenal in a real game against them, that same kind of thing would have happened. But the fact that they sold Carvalho, who impressed so much in that game and in the Man United game as well, I think that could have a big, serious impact on them. But they'd still be my tip for finishing third, with or without that Carvalho fella. After that, fourth place. Now we know that Aston Villa finished in one of the Champions League positions. Did very well to do that as well. Unai Emery doing an unbelievable job, to be honest. As he's proven throughout his managerial career, other than that one blot on his copybook at the Emirates, which we don't need to go into again. But he just wasn't suited to us, which is just one of those things that can't always work out. But for 9 out of 10 times, normally for every other club, he's lifted silverware and he's got great success out of them. They've signed, they've invested heavily in their squad. They signed a lot of attacking players. They've signed some really good midfield recruits. I'm not sure about their defense, but their defense, I think, has always been solid enough. I see them as being a shoe-in again for fourth. I think they're stronger than Man United.
With Champions League football.
That's one of the factors that I was going to bring into as far as being one of the negatives against them, their ability to juggle that competition with Premier League football. But as I said, they've heavily invested in their squad, so they have the numbers there to balance things. But yeah, that could prove to be their downfall. But I certainly see them as the strongest contender for fourth place, just above the likes of Man United, Newcastle United, and the Spurs. When it comes to fifth, I really like the look of Brighton. I've seen some of the business that they've done. I've watched them in pre-season. They have an abundance of attacking talent, especially on the flanks, especially in the central attacking midfield department. They've got this new manager. I think he's like 31 years old, which is just unbelievable. Never seen anything like that, to be honest. Other than the odd case here or there, I think they could be a real contender for either fifth, if not fourth. And then when it comes to sixth, I think the toss-up will be between the likes of Newcastle United and the Tottenham Hotspur. I think Newcastle have the more.
So you're not putting United anywhere near the top six? Oof. Oof. You can tell you're an Arsenal fan, that's for sure.
I'll give you my reasons why, and I've looked at this bias aside. I think Newcastle United have got a more stable structure to them. Bruno Guimaraes, Sandro Tonali, they've got a good bedrock in their back four as well. The goalkeeper's solid. The options are very good. Joe Linton, Alexander Isak. I'm sure I've left out a few others. Kieran Trippier, Nick Pope. If they can just reinforce maybe their defense and or their attack, I think they are a stronger functional unit as an 11 than what Man United are. The reason I don't put Man United in there is I've basically seen a continuation of the Eric Ten Hag kind of slapdash, hit and hope, chance it, and how can I put it? I don't see what the game plan is that Eric Ten Hag is building. He's
There's no
had 2
progression,
seasons.
is what you mean, from day one to day now.
There doesn't seem to be a progression in a style of, or even tactically. I mean, we all watched the Community Shield where United played very well, but some very strange tactical decisions being made by Ten Hag, like taking the most effective attacking player, Amad Diallo, persevering with an underperforming Marcus Rashford again, which we've said, all too many times last season, and the centre forward options being kind of a bit lacking as far as Rasmus Højlund's dependability when it comes to being available. Joshua Zirkzee, who I really like and I really wanted for Arsenal, but not really seeming to be in favour in the way that you would have expected him to be by now. Barely used in pre-season.
The reason for that is because he carries an injury into United. That's the reason they're saying.
Fine. Okay. So how long is it going to take for him then to be integrated?
I think he'll start in the next couple of games, personally.
Right, but you're going to have to then have an adaptation period as far as getting used to the teammates that he plays with, and just United style of play. We'll see. On it's yet to be determined. That's one of the reasons. And another thing as well, I do have to say in United's favour, if they can get the best out of Matthias de Ligt and Mazraoui, who I think is a massive addition in a very problematic area for United. I think that'll be enormous. They get the best out of them too. The Lenny Oro thing, I think, is a little premature to be so heavily dependent on him.
I agree.
Maybe a fit Harry Maguire with a scandal controversy-free season, I think could be good for them. I think the Casemiro thing, that problem, that dilemma, it won't go away. I don't think a couple of decent performances in the odd one-off game will be enough for what the rest of us saw for a large chunk of last season, where he was getting rings ran around him.
Could be solved potentially by the end of the transfer window. Obviously, we don't know what's going on, but could be resolved with with incomings. You never know.
Yeah, possibly. But I think whoever you bring in, the undoing of United eventually will be the manager and his lack of tactical nous and an idea and a game plan. If they had a different manager, a more competent manager, those tools are there to get third, maybe second. But I think the manager is where the detriment is for United.
The bookies are saying by January we could have Van Nistelrooy as manager. So, hey, you never know, right? You never know.
Well, look at it like this. You're not a guy who goes from managing one of the biggest clubs in the Netherlands Ruud van Nistelrooy. Champions League football they qualified for. I think they won, was it 16 games in a row? Leading a goal. They played us home and away in the Champions League last season. They made a very good account for themselves. I don't think you go from being a guy in the hot seat like that to just happily settling in as a number two under a different manager.
Yeah.
I think he's got eyes on that hot seat. And what United have done is they've safeguarded the managerial position so that if and when Ten Hag likely gets sacked, that Ruud will be the natural successor. Obviously, the United connections already, and the fact that he already has managed big clubs on his CV, that'll be a natural, smooth transition. Yeah, that's how I see it playing.
I kind of see that as well. To be honest, you like you said, you don't bring him in to sit as a number two, but yeah, I think Ten Hag must know that as well. It's no big stupid. He's not dull. Bottom three.
I think that Van Nistelrooy appointment was part of the Ten Hag to remain negotiation conversations. Like, okay, you survive by the skin of your teeth. We're not going to sack you. You get to stay. However, this is a condition as part of your staying. We bring in Ruud van Nistelrooy, and he remains there under your tutelage. And obviously, depending on the results, you either get to keep your job, obviously, if you do well. But if you don't, then we've done all that we can for you. And
I agree.
go.
I agree, 100%. Bottom three.
As far as relegation candidates go, it's really hard to not look beyond the three that came up. Ipswich, I watched on the weekend against Liverpool at Portman Road. I like what McKenna has done, Kieran McKenna there. A lot of people speak really highly about him. Ipswich, a very prestigious club as well. They've got a good history, European pedigree as well, believe it or not, if you go back to the Bobby Robson days. They've got the boy, forgotten his name now, the Arsenal boy who went on free to Chelsea, Omari Hutchinson. Yeah, he can impress a lot in the Premier League. The Rory Delap's boy as well, who is an attacker for them. He impressed me against Liverpool on the weekend. I think they had to take that Gerald Kwanzaa off at half time because he's giving him a torrid time, to be fair. I don't see them having enough to stay up in this league, I'm afraid. Southampton need to I need a better look at their transfer recruitment. I don't see them staying up. I don't see anything in a general sense that tells me that they have enough to be one of the better teams in this league. And I don't want to throw Everton in there, but I feel as though their continued persistence with Sean Dyche, their poor or average or mediocre transfer window as well, where some absolutely baffling decisions have been made. I mean, was it 38, 39-year-old Ashley Young starting it right back on day one of the season? How many months have you had to plan and prepare for the season? And you get absolutely turned over by Brighton at home. Ashley Young sent off, still persisting with my. Still got very average Mikalenko playing at the back. Still playing Abdoulaye Doucouré in the number 10 role, who is so far removed from what a number 10 should be in the game that is and a kind of a disheartened, disillusioned Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who looks about as interested in playing for Everton as I don't know, a pig being taken for a bath, as far as that goes. And yeah, not enough firepower and not good enough at the back or in the middle. I don't want to lump them in there. But I think this is it for Sean Dyche, I'm afraid. All of the signs are pointing down. They're not on an upward trajectory whatsoever. I'd love to say otherwise for Reece, but yeah, if you're getting hammered 3-0 at home on day one of the league campaign, there's serious questions to be asked.
I think the only thing I can think of, and this is what I'm going to say, there was meant to be some sort of financial package or financial takeover when that fell through. I don't know if that was going to help him or not, but it's still no excuse. At the end of the day, too late, too little, too late, as they say. And I think they can have more financial penalties in point deductions, personally.
Yeah, and ironically, the other candidates for that 18th position, Leicester City, who've just been newly promoted. Obviously, they lost their manager Enzo Maresca as well. They're, I think, due to be a couple of points. They
I kind of
haven't
forgot
really.
that, to be fair.
Yeah. They haven't really recruited all that impressively either. They've lost Keane and Dewsbury Hall, who I think would have been a massive player for them if they had stayed up. If they'd have kept their manager as well, I think they would have had a good basis to build off.
They did
The
sign that Fatou. I can't say his
So they
name.
already Fatua, I think is
Yeah,
they
yeah.
they already had him last season. I think if they had a continuation of what they were doing last season, they would have stood a chance. But I think they've been significantly weakened by the departure of their manager and one of their star players in Keane and Dewsbury Hall, and Kelechi Iheanacho as well. His firepower would have helped.
Hmm.
Those were the contenders, Everton and Leicester, for me, for that
Okay,
18th position.
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Right, very very quick fire. This is going to be.
Go for it.
I'm going to tell you mine. I want yours. One player to watch out for in the Premier League this season. I'm going to go for João Pedro. Personally, I think he'd be a. I think. I do think he will light up the Premier League. I think he's going to get more game time, a lot more in a team that plays. Well, you've seen him the weekend. Brighton, how they played, very very dominant football. I think he'll thrive in that team. Whether he gets multiple assists, multiple goals, I think his goal and assist record will be up there with the top lot. And I don't see him being at Brighton probably next season or the season after. Definitely not if he carries on the trajectory he's going. He'll be at a top club. Who's your one player to watch?
Ironically, it's another Brighton player as well.
Ah,
They signed a winger called Yankuba Minter,
yes.
Miteh. I think he's Gambian. He was on the books of Newcastle United. They loaned him out to a team in the Netherlands in the Eredivisie. He
Mm-hmm.
absolutely destroyed that league. Newcastle, for some strange reason, didn't take on the option to keep him, and they sold him to Brighton. I've watched Brighton in pre-season. They're putting fours and fives consistently past teams, threes, fours, and fives. He has been an absolute live wire. I've heard him described on the weekend as possibly potentially being one of the best African players to ever play in the Premier League. And that was said after, and that was said after I had already predicted him to be the one player to watch in the league. So that I think just further
That's a big
reinforces how
claim, mind.
enormous and it's enormous. But even before I heard that, I looked at him. I took a look at him in the first couple of games, and I could see that this is an absolute joke of a talent
To be
and a
fair,
very
Brighton's recruitment is next level. I gotta say they're probably one of the best clubs in the world at recruiting.
it's top notch in my opinion. They took for me. I know we have others, but for me, one of the next up and coming stars from our academy. Possibly the next one we had a ready-made, ready-built Bukayo Saka replacement in Amario Hosier Dewberry. He left us for some reason. He was what looks like allowed to leave. Okay, we offered him a contract, but there are ways that you offer contracts. You know, you can kind of give it like that. Oh, here you go, or you can be like, hey, please, beg you, sign this. And I don't think we did the latter. I think we did the former. He left on free. He went to Brighton. He plays on the exact same flank. He can play on both flanks. Uh, if you could put all of the attributes of Saka into a machine and have it process it and formulate a player as a replacement, a direct like for like replacement, that should go right there. That would be another player that I
It's a
would
common theme with
recommend.
Arsenal this year, doesn't it? Looks like a lot of the youth players are dwindling for frees to different clubs. Bit
It
of a
seems
worrying
so,
time.
and I don't understand why. But you know, for
And
as
every
many as
single
we,
one of them have come and said out they can't see a pathway to the first team. Does that mean their first
yeah,
team's too strong? Or does that mean they're not really
I
looking
think
at bringing them through?
I think Arteta has got a lot of questions to answer when it comes to implementing and blooding some of our academy talents. There are guys that should have been playing last season, you know, being given 40 minutes last season, like the winger that Brighton just signed, like Ethan Waneri, who is
Mm-hmm.
only kind of getting out but didn't get a minute on the weekend. You know,
Yeah.
if they're good enough, then they're old enough. That's how I see it. So I don't blame them for being disillusioned at the club.
It's
Yeah,
a bit
gutted.
disheartening for them as well, isn't it? When they see they're putting all these efforts in, potentially getting
My
these chances and little glimpses, and then just not progressing when they feel
my
they could.
my thing with Arsenal is this: if you're not going to invest in the squad and not going to sign big heavy hitters, season after season, you kind of remain quibbling over a couple of million euros here and there, like it's Mikel Merino deal that's taken forever and a day to get over the line. It's a 20 million euro transfer. If they're asking for 21, if they're asking for 25, they're asking for 29, pay the money.
Yeah.
Pay the money. Pay the money, win the league, and recoup that tenfold, But they're haggling, and they're probably going to leave it until, I don't know, the back end of the transfer window, and then eventually get him in. And it's like, well, okay, we've done that. Hello, we needed a striker as well. What about that? So if that's your route and that's your strategy, then why not use what you have in your academies and blood them?
I agree. I
Uh,
agree.
it
So
just fruition, unfortunately. Go on, sorry, that was my one
no,
player.
no, no. I get it. I get it. I get it. And I get you're passionate and getting frustrated a little bit. You can hear it in your voice there, but gotta move it on. One team to
Yeah.
watch, and mine's mine's a big team. Mine is Liverpool to watch, and I generally feel they're gonna win something big. I don't know what it is, but they are gonna win something. It's gonna be one of the main ones. I can't. I don't know what this feeling is. I don't like it. It reminds me of when Klopp went into that third season where they decided to turn it on a little bit. They just seemed to click onto it. They got that passion back, and I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. I think they're very disappointed in losing out the way they did towards the end of the latter season of last season, in terms of dropping all them points very quickly. And I think they're going to come back bigger and better, and that kills me as a United fan. With this new manager, I don't think he's no Ten Hag. You know what I mean? This guy knows what he's doing. He's got a very good tactical about him. He's got the players all willing to listen and learn regarding his tactics. And I think for the players, I think it's a bit easier than having Klopp shouting down your neck, the training routines, the high intensity pressing that he wants constantly from the team. I think the likes of Van Dijk, who is probably fading under the Klopp era, I still probably got another 2 years under slot, if that makes sense. And I think he's kind of given him a new energy, a new boost to play. So I think Liverpool are ones to watch for me. I got a feeling I know who your one to watch is, but go on then, tell us.
You know what? I wouldn't have said I wouldn't have even had Liverpool in the reckoning until I watched them against us in pre-season,
Mm.
and I saw the Harvey Elliott and Fabio Carvalho were combining. If they had kept that core there, I could see them doing some serious work and some serious things. I
Yeah.
really could. But strangely, or to balance the books, or to get money in, they sold Carvalho, and now that's one of those two components gone, and it just brings them back to square one, in my opinion. The number 6 DM role for them is one that I think needs to be plugged. That over reliance on Wataru Endo, I don't think a lot of Liverpool fans are happy with that. And the collapse of that Zubamendi transfer from Sociedad, which a lot of people are getting a lot of joy out of.
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it?
I got no real animosity towards Liverpool, but I can see the funny side of it, kind of.
Imagine spending all that time on a target and then it just, I don't know. I think it's not like Liverpool to do mistakes like that. I think that's a big
Mhm.
mistake they've done.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. But there's still time in the window left for them to do something.
It is. It is. It is.
It might be a Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield kind of thing, and move the components around that and see what happens. I don't know. But we'll see as the season goes on. Them aside, I really like the look of Brighton, and I
What a
like the look of
shock.
Aston.
That was last year. You same one last year, Brighton.
I said it last season. I think they impressed a lot of people last season.
They dropped off quite a bit, didn't they?
They go here and there, but having seen them in preseason, it is very difficult for me to not say what I saw. I saw a very impressive team with live wire attackers on both flanks and in the midfield. Joao Pedro, Evan Ferguson, to name a few, as far as their centre forwards go. That's quite an option of strikers right there for a mid-table team.
Yeah.
They should go on and qualify for Europe and maybe look to push the Champions League football, because that's one of the best run clubs, I think, in this whole league, maybe if not in Europe. So that would be my team.
And that brings us on perfectly. This weekend's fixtures: Manchester United, Brighton at home. Very quickly, score prediction. No telling me about the scores. I don't care. No,
Fine,
I just
fine,
want to
fine,
know scores.
fine.
I'm gonna go 2-1 Brighton. I don't think United have got it.
Neither do I. I think 3-1 Brighton.
3-1 Brighton, okay. Next up
Yeah.
then, Crystal Palace West Ham.
Oh,
I'm going to
oh,
go West Ham grinding out a 2-1 win.
I can see that maybe being a 3-2 West Ham win.
3-2, okay, even closer. Next one then, Fulham Leicester. Bear in mind, Leicester did surprise me a little bit how well they did play. Against a Fulham, their record is not great. I have checked this beforehand. I think it could be a 1-0 win either way. I think it's probably potentially Fulham 1-0.
I think Fulham will be kicking themselves from how profligate and wasteful they were against United at Old Trafford. They should have been out of sight. So they'll be sharp. They'll have their tools sharpened and possibly look to put maybe 3 past a weak Leicester City team.
Yeah, and the next one then, Man City Ipswich. I think it's gonna be slaughterhouse. 6-0, Man City for me.
I'm right there with you. 5.
5. We'll see who gets closer on that one. Next one, Southampton versus Nottingham Forest. Very close game for me, but I do
Agreed.
think Nottingham will probably edge it by a goal. I'm maybe 2-1, maybe 1-0, something like that. Or potentially a draw, but I think it's gonna be 1-0 win to Nottingham Forest.
I'll go 2-0 Forest.
2-0 Forest, okay, fair enough. Tottenham versus Everton, 3-0. 3-0 Tottenham. I was going to say Everton then. 3-0 Tottenham. Going to whitewash them. Easy.
I'd love to say I can see an upset, but the way that Sean Dyche is going about things, this is just not the Everton of old that can just turn over a big team. I'm going to go with a 2-1 Tottenham. Oh, God, did I just say that?
Well, we'll quickly move it on to the half-5 game, which is the big one of the day for me. Villa, Arsenal. The big first. This is probably one of the first big clashes of the season. For me, I think it's going to be very close. I think it's going to be 1-0. 1-0 draw. I think it's the first time Arsenal are going to drop points and concede for a long time, and I think it's going to be 1-0.
My heart wants a 3-2 victory because Aston Villa have got a lot of attacking firepower. But the reality is that it could potentially be a 2-2. Is it at the Emirates or at the Villa Park?
Villa Park.
Tough. I'm going to say 3-2 Arsenal. God.
3-2 Arsenal. Woohoo! Then we move on to Sunday fixtures then. We got Bournemouth versus Newcastle. 2-0 Newcastle for me. I can't see Bournemouth doing anything about it. I just think that the quality they've got up front with Newcastle and the midfield they got will whitewash them too easily. Yourself?
I feel like Bournemouth always surprise a lot of people, especially over at the I forgot the name of that stadium now. Well, the Vitality Stadium. I think they can look at maybe a 2-2 draw with Newcastle, who have lost some key defenders, by the way, on the weekend, didn't they?
Yeah, the strength they got. Come on. Anyway, fine. 2-2. You say 2-2. The next one is
And Shea
Wolves.
missing.
Sorry.
Fabian Shea missing, as well as Sven Botman as well.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. When it was United, nobody cared. Anyway, let's move on quickly from that. Wolves versus Chelsea. It's like picking between two X's. You don't really want to pick either of them, do you? For me, Chelsea 1-0 maybe. I don't know. They're so inconsistent both sides. It's really hard to pick, really.
They are, but I think Wolves made a good account of themselves on the weekend at the Emirates. And against a dysfunctional Chelsea team, I can see them pushing out for maybe a 2-1 victory.
Okay, and then there we go. The last game, Liverpool versus Brentford. No Ivan Toney. Don't know where he's going to go, but he's definitely moving on. Maybe he is going to Arsenal after all this time. I doubt it, personally. But Liverpool 3-1 winners. I think they'll let in the goal. Personally, they're always about that goal. They like to let in the goal, don't they? But 3-1 winners. Liverpool. Yourself?
Yeah, that same scoreline. Salah, Diaz, Nunes, Jota, McAllister. there's too much going on there for them
Quality's
to.
too good, but
Yeah.
so that's it. Again, everybody, thank you so much for watching us come back. It is a bit of a long one, but you know what? Who cares? It's our first one back. We can talk as much as we want. We will be back with another one at some point next week, potentially towards the latter side. Again, we'll go over this week's games, and then we'll talk about next week's games and any issues that do arise. It may even be 2 videos. It depends on anything else. But again, thanks for myself. No. Thank you again.
Yeah.
Absolute
Very
legend.
great.
But we will be back again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share with everybody. I don't care who it is, your friend, your nan, your dog. Share it with everyone. Absolute legends, guys. Take care. Peace.
Man. Peace.
Well.